Welcome back to the Gen 20 podcast. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Marina.
And today we're joined by Erin Sanchez from candidlyerin.com to discuss the predatory nature of MLMs and why they're selling false dreams.
Erin, we're so excited to have you with us today for this important conversation. Can you give us a little more on your background?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here, and you know that I love you both. So this is a super fun episode to record. I am a cubicle escapee. I left my 9 to 5 back in 2014 and started my own freelance writing and marketing consultancy. Then at the end of 2016, I launched my blog, which you mentioned, candidlyerin.com, and started creating content to help my fellow creatives grow their own businesses without, I should add, resorting to so-called network marketing. just to segue us into the conversation.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here for this conversation because as we've talked before, you have a little experience yourself with MLMs, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I also think it's super important for people to see how possible it is to make money by building your own business around yourself and your own products and your own skills instead of essentially peddling products for another company.
Yes, for sure.
So I guess we should start with what exactly is an MLM?
An MLM stands for Multilevel Marketing. And basically, if someone is selling a product on behalf of a company or they're calling themselves an independent representative for so-and-so brand, they're probably working with an MLM. And while they do sell a product, most of their money comes from recruiting new people to the downline, essentially. So the people above them are making money by having new people join and become quote unquote consultants. I think like on the outside, MLMs can seem like they're a great opportunity, but they're really just like pyramid schemes in disguise. And where pyramid schemes basically make money off of recruiting other people to the company, MLMs kind of get away with this structure because they do sell a product and can financially prove that, you know, some people, mostly the very high people in the company, are making money off of the product they're selling, but the people who are being recruited are making pretty much no money or very little money or having to shell out money to purchase inventory for themselves. And it's not a very like positive experience for most people who are joining at like the independent representative level.
No, absolutely. And I think like what you hit on there, which I think a lot of people, they sell them the dream that they're going to become one of the top people who are making all this money, who are going on these retreats, who are getting these really big grand prizes. And that's not the majority of people. If that was the majority of people, these companies, the brands that are, you know, the actual corporation, the actual structure creating these products would not be making any money. Like there is a reason they're profiting. And that is the fact that most of their consultants, sales reps, whatever you want to call them, are not rolling in the dough because it's not based purely on, you know, profits from the product. Like you said, it's about recruiting people underneath you. I don't want to go into it now. Let's talk a little bit more about MLMs, but I will tell you a story about myself and my husband trying to be recruited into one. And what you tapped on, it's like probably the ultimate pyramid scheme because what they sell is it's just nonsense. But anyway, we can as the end product, it's just nonsense, but we can get into that later.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited to hear that story because I don't know if I've ever heard it before.
I don't think so, yeah.
So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But I think like one thing that we have to really pay attention to with MLMs is like, it's generally these people, it's like, I saw a TikTok about this and I'm really sorry. I don't want to like, you know, hurt anyone's feelings who do like represent MLMs and things like that. But it's people who randomly reach out to you on Facebook and they're like, hey, are you interested in your house smelling amazing? Like, have you ever used essential oils? Like, did you know, like, I saw you were trying to do X, Y, and Z, or like, oh, I saw your grandfather has cancer. Have you put an essential oil on it? Just things like that.
That's rough.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've seen on YouTube where people have like attended these like back end meetings with, I don't know exactly what they're called, but it's like the person who recruited you or whatever. And they're like, when you're talking to people, pay attention to their like tragedies and what they're going through and hit on those like pain points for them. And it's like, you shouldn't have to be like, we can use essential oils on cancer to sell
Yeah.
a product.
No. No, that's awful. Yeah, I do notice that, like, one of the things and I find it immediately is a turnoff for me because I get a lot of those kind of direct messages. I'm connected to a lot of, especially women in the online business space, and as soon as I receive a friend request, I've gotten really good about sort of like looking at their profile and trying to figure out, like, are they trying to just befriend me so they can sell me, this cheap jewelry or whatever? And because they're posting it, they're plastering it all over their Facebook feeds and everything. Um, but I find it so disingenuous, right? Like, I know that the companies tell them to build relationships and they tell them exactly how to go about doing that. But when you're just following a script, when you're just following something that somebody else is telling you exactly how to build an authentic relationship, then it immediately becomes inauthentic. And you can tell. And I
Mhm.
have women pop in and say, "Oh, I love your hair. What products do you use?" It's like, okay, yeah, right. A, I have very fine hair. Like, you are lying to me, for one. And two, this is so obvious. Like, I can smell this pitch from a mile away. The other
Mhm.
thing I see them doing in the DMs, and I'm going to talk about this on a podcast episode I have outlined about, DMs gone wrong, like what not to do in the DMs. Um, on my birthday, I can't just get a nice happy birthday message. It has to be happy birthday. Would you like some free samples? If so, blah, 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 right? Like, just let me know like where to send them. And I just find that to be so kind of tricky because it's like, A, you don't really care about my birthday, right? Like,
Mhm.
that's not why you're coming over here to like say something to me. It's really self serving. And B, like, now I feel guilted into like engaging with you and saying, oh, thank you so
Mhm.
much. So it's like playing off of that guilt. It's just all around terrible sales. It's terrible, in my opinion. But yes, not to hurt anyone's feelings, but I just think it's the wrong way to go about making money.
Yeah, like, if you are selling MLM products, just know that you are better than selling someone else's products.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, like, MLMs in general, like, they're just very predatory, like, they really prey on, like, women and immigrants and low-income minorities and people who are stuck financially with this promise of, "Oh, you can build your own business, you can have this financial freedom, you can have career security," and that's really not even true.
No,
And
absolutely. Go ahead, Marina. Sorry.
I was gonna say, we talked about in our episode with Tori, we talked about financial freedom and the financial wage gap between minorities and people of color and women, and it's just another way that we're being held back. And
Yeah.
there's better solutions.
Oh,
Yeah, instead
absolutely.
of you just selling a product, it's like they're selling this dream to you, which because they're like, "Well, you just need to spend $1,000 on inventory and you're easily gonna make back so and so much," but that's not true. Like, there are a lot of studies, we'll link to some in the show notes, that show people who join MLMs ultimately lose money, and there's very few people who actually profit off of these things, but they're the people who are at the top because the business is designed that way.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. So actually, that reminds me because I know there are, so just to give everybody sort of some context for how I get to learn some of these personal stories around MLMs is because I do like strategy calls and business coaching calls and stuff. And when I first started up with my coaching and everything, a lot of the people who were coming to me, and I have since learned how to market my services because I was like getting all of these women wanting me to help them, and they were part of MLMs. And why wasn't anything working? And why couldn't they, sell their stuff? And that gave me a real taste for like how many people aren't actually making this work, despite what maybe they're presenting on the surface. And there are things like, just to speak to what you were both just mentioning about, the wage gap and targeting people who are already in bad, financial situations. There are women who are using MLMs as their way to, it's their way to get out of like an abusive or a really bad marriage because they are financially dependent on their husband. They've had kids, they're a stay-at-home mom, whatever, and they think this is their escape plan. And that is just such a terrible thing, right? That we're going to promise these women that they're going to be able to make all this money and go out and, leave their abusive husband or whatever the case. And it's probably not going to happen for them. I just find that to be repulsive, to be honest. And then there are stories of people, like you said, who are already in financial crisis and they are using it, even if they have a good relationship, right? They're in financial crisis and they think this is going to be the thing that's going to give them even a little extra money to pay some bills or to pay down debt. And then they end up going into debt and they're surrounded by inventory that they can't offload. They can't get anyone else recruited under them, because a lot of the time MLMs or the reps in MLMs are in small towns. And then you have a very limited pool of people you actually know to recruit under you.
Mhm.
And then the market becomes saturated because everybody's selling Avon or
The
whatever
same
it
thing,
is,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of expand on a point that you were, touching on because it's like, of course, people are like in MLMs are going to sell to you that they're making a ton of money. And how would it feel to have an extra $500 in your pocket, an extra
Mm-hmm.
1,000? Because that money looks really tempting. And like, as you have seen by like coaching people and like having people reach out to you who work under MLMs, they're not actually making that money. But by selling that to other people, that's how they're going to make that money
Mm-hmm.
by having people sign up because the
Exactly.
majority of money comes from having other people sign up
Yep.
as consultants.
Yeah, and it doesn't account for the hours you put in trying to make that money, because if you spend an hour and you make $500, that's great. If you spend 100 hours and you make $500, that's not great. Your
Yeah.
your like hourly price went way down.
Yeah, and don't forget you also will have to pay taxes on this income,
Yep.
which is, I mean, as self-employed people know, is quite a significant amount. Like you should generally set aside 30% of your earnings for taxes.
Yep.
Which is not I don't think that's something they include when they explain this all to
Yeah.
you about how wonderful it is to be able to have an extra $500. Like, I can guarantee you right now that pretty much every single person listening to this could go set up even a Fiverr profile, an Upwork profile, and earn 500 extra dollars by the end of the month with
Oh yeah.
maybe spending 10 to 15 hours
Yeah.
doing so.
Yes. No, I totally agree with you. Yeah. The hourly thing, I'm so glad you brought that up, Marina, because that's what people need to keep in mind. And sometimes I think, and I keep saying women because a lot of MLMs have female reps, right? A ton of them. Um, and I think a lot of these women are stay-at-home moms or whatever, so they're not thinking about like the big picture in terms of how much time they're putting in for the money they get back. They're like, well, I'm home anyway, while I'm doing, whatever, and I get to make this money on the side. But what happens? I mean, it's like with anything where you're really hustling for a really low wage. Like, what happens if, God forbid, you get sick, your kid gets sick, you can't hustle like that. There goes the extra money you made. What if you started relying on that money to pay a bill or whatever? And it requires all of your time. And at the same time, I mean, I'm all about balance. I am all about balance. And especially if you are a stay at home mom who's doing this for extra money, but now you're literally filming um, your promos like with your kid on your hip and stuff all the time instead of actually like, I mean, I'm not trying to judge, right? Like we all have to do, I'm not a mom and we all have our things and people work while they have kids and all that, right? But I just don't think that it's giving people, my point is it's not giving them the freedom that they're promised for this big amount of money. Instead, it's a lot of hustling for a very small amount of money. So it's just
Yeah,
not,
all
it's
it's
not living up
doing
to the
is
dream.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's complicating that, like, daily life even more so
Yeah.
And
than needs to
time is
be.
a finite resource and it's very
Mhm.
valuable. And we often, I think, especially as women, but we often undervalue our time and undervalue ourselves. And it just helps, that causes us to fall deeper and deeper.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
No, that's a really good point, too, for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, so now let's just jump into that, story where you and your husband almost got lured into this MLM cult. I'm
Yeah.
very curious about
Yeah,
this.
let's circle back.
Yeah, yeah. So I knew what was going on because I mean, for example, I said, right, I sold um Avon, and like I said before, I don't know if we're naming and shaming. I didn't have like a horrible experience with Avon, so I'm not actually saying anything terrible about them. But I was a teenager. I was 15, 16 years old, and I mostly did it because I lived in a small town where we had very limited access to like makeup and stuff. So I sold it so that I could like basically get my own makeup for free or cheap, right?
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of these old ladies in town who bought Avon, and so it was just very easy for me to be like, yeah, I'll go sell them their stuff, and then I'll get my makeup at a discounted rate. So I did that. And I had experience there, but I never was like recruiting people under me or whatever, but I did understand how it worked. So that gave me a little insight. And then of course, just being on the online business space and kind of seeing what people were doing there. And then my friend actually somebody tried to recruit her into this really big one. It's one of, if not the top and one of the oldest MLMs. Um, and she told me her horror story. And I was like, wow, this sounds like a cult, right? And she was like, it is a cult. Like, we had this really big conversation around it. So then my husband comes home from work one day and he's like, hey, so this customer, not his own customer, but his employer's customer, right? She's telling me that she might have a job for me, like something like to make some money or whatever. And I was like, oh, like what? Like a side hustle? Like she needs something done personally? Like I didn't really know. He's like, yeah, I don't know. She didn't really tell me what it was
Mm.
or what I would be doing. And I was like, this sounds like an MLM, a very culty MLM, right? And I was like, well, ask her ask her what it's for. And he goes, I did. She kind of like beat around the bush, right? She kind of skirted the conversation. And I thought, well, that's a red flag. So he we kind of just like forgot about it, dropped it, and then she came back to his work again, and then she brought it up to him again, and she said, hey, would you be like, meet with me and my husband, like just meet with us and we'll talk about what it is. And he basically was like, my wife's the decision maker. And so he roped me into it, which I'm glad, because I was like, well, I know what this is about, right? So I went into
Mhm.
it really prepared. So they wanted to meet us at a Starbucks. And so we met at this Starbucks with them. And immediately they start asking those questions, like you guys were saying at the beginning of the episode, like just little things to be like, could you imagine what your life would be like? What is your dream? Like when you retire, like how do you picture your life? Really starting to build up that, like getting you all amped up for what's possible and what your current pain points are. And what would it be like to have just an extra 500, $1,000? Like, what would you spend that on? Like, just this conversation that I thought, oh, okay, what are you selling, right? And so my husband, I'm like practically kicking him under the table because he kept going, so
Mm.
what do you do? And I'm like, stop asking more questions, because then it gives them more, ways to sell.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is like, just stop engaging, right?
Yeah.
Stop
You're like,
engaging.
"I have to go. I have another appointment."
Yes. So what I did was, finally I said, okay, look, I know what you're doing. And I go, and I'm pretty sure I even know which organization you're doing it for. I go, we don't participate in that kind of, that line of business. We don't like, this is not for us. I know that. I can tell you that. And they started getting kind of defensive. Like they were like, well, why not? And how do you know? And blah, blah. And then I said, my husband says again, but what do you do? And I go, I turned to him and I said, they don't sell anything. They don't sell anything. They sell the dream. And I go, and now and I know my husband, so I knew this was going to get him to stop. I go, and now they want you to go out and get other people and sit them down at Starbucks and try to do this exact thing where you're selling them the dream. And he goes, oh no, I'm out. Cause he's like this
Mm.
very like introvert, like shy kind of guy. And he's like, nope, I don't do sales. I don't do any of that.
Mhm.
And at this point, they were like kind of mad at me. And I said, look, I just stopped them and I said, I do not appreciate the lack of transparency here. The fact that you will not even say, because what they were trying to get us to do was in order to learn more and actually learn what their company, they wouldn't even tell us the company name. Okay. In order to learn that stuff, you have to go talk to their business partner, they called him. Now, this business partner is their upline, right? It's the next guy up on the pyramid. And from what my friend told me, because she actually went through a couple levels of it, like just out of curiosity, they keep doing that. And until you attend this final presentation, which is like in a big dark room where they're like brainwashing you with these videos, you don't learn what the company is until like the third level or something, like the third meeting.
That's so weird.
Yeah. So I told her, I said, nope, I don't appreciate. I go, I know what you're doing and we're gone and whatever. So I'm almost done with the story, but it's just, there's so much, like I could make it so much longer, but I won't. Then we leave, and on the way home, the woman texts, she texts my husband, and she said, cause she has his number from work stuff. Right. And she texted him and she said, hey, would you mind giving me your wife's phone number? I felt bad about how whatever. And he asked me, and I said, you know what? Go ahead and give her my number, because I know I'm a lot meaner than my husband. And like, if she keeps hounding, she'll keep hounding him unless I like put an end to this. So he went ahead and gave me her number. And then she messaged me and she said, I really didn't like leaving things like that. And I do believe in full transparency. So just so you know, this is what we're affiliated with. And she sends me this video. And it was the exact one I thought. And it was the exact one that my friend had gone like through like these several meetings.
Mm.
And I just messaged her back and I said, yes, I'm aware. This is exactly, like, I knew that's what it was. I still don't appreciate like your lack of business ethics, right? And I don't believe in this business structure. And so please do not contact us again, because no. And so she hasn't. But just to give you an idea, to sign up with them is a pretty large sum. It's a huge sum of money to get started with this company. And what their end product, this is what I was alluding to earlier, Nicole, when you said, they sell something so that they can like not be a pyramid scheme or whatever, is audio recordings to keep you inspired to live your dream.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm like, yeah, I can give podcasts for free.
What?
Or I can
what
pay for an
company
actual
is
coach.
Yeah.
So it's under Amway, which is like one of the biggest MLMs, right? And Amway sells like, I think like lotions and shampoos and stuff. But this organization, which is a subsidiary of Amway, is called Worldwide Dream Builders. So people listening, if somebody starts approaching you in this shady way, be warned. I mean, it's really important for people to.
Oh my God. I've been approached by these people.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
I didn't even know what that was. Back in high school, a friend of mine kept trying to get me to come to this like meeting, but she wouldn't tell me what it was about. And she told me it was about like helping you get your dreams. And I finally just told her like, oh, I'm not allowed to go
Yeah.
to
My mom
things
won't
that,
let me.
yeah, I was like, oh, it sounds like it runs really late and I can't do things on school nights because I was so uncomfortable, but I didn't
Thanks,
even,
Mom.
thanks, Mom. Yeah. I had no idea that that's what it was.
Yeah,
Dang.
they are they are extraordinarily predatory. And that secretiveness it's creepy. It's straight up creepy. And if you have a legit business opportunity, that person should be able to tell you right away what it is. Okay? Like, that's a huge red flag. If somebody won't even tell you the name of the company or what they do or what they sell, huge red flag.
Yeah. Like when I talk about my novel, I'm not like, well, read it and find out.
Yeah.
I tell you what it is.
No book jacket, okay? You gotta guess. You gotta buy it to find out what it's about.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just, then another like underlined problem with MLMs like that are that you're abusing your relationships. You're behaving in a way that I imagine can just really damage or separate any true connection. It's that lack of authenticity that just destroys the relationships you've had, which is another reason you're always selling and hustling, because you're always having to build new relationships from the ones that you've burned.
Mhm.
100%. Yeah, that's a huge thing for me too. I mean, look, I know who to avoid, right? Like, I know who to avoid and whose messages to ignore. And that's a terrible thing, you know? And I
Yeah.
know that their marketing training or whatever they get behind the scenes for like how they promote their stuff is all about authentic, branding and being yourself and whatever, but it's like it's so truly inauthentic because they are telling you exactly what to do and because you are building those relationships out of not a genuine desire to build a relationship that yeah, it's not going to be conducive to, like you said, Marina, like long-term strong relationships. There's no way. And there's really high turnover in those too, because when people stop making money, they're like, yeah, I'm out. And then you got to go find somebody new. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, so to kind of pivot here, so I'm sure there's a lot of people in MLMs. I don't know if people listening to this are in
Yes.
MLMs. They might be a little turned off. But
Yeah.
so I think I kind of want to like dive into a little bit like if you are part of an MLM and as you said, Erin, you want to secure your future as a business owner, how can you make that pivot and like what can you do and what are some differences between selling for an MLM and then what you would do as like your own business owner who's selling your own skills or your own products even?
Yeah. So I think the first thing, this is some advice I actually gave to someone I had an early conversation with when I first started doing some coaching and stuff. And she was in an MLM and was struggling. And I really encouraged her and I encourage everyone to build a personal brand because I think when you focus on selling like your skills and your expertise and all of that, then anything you sell then people are buying from you. They're not buying because you sell, Avon or Rodan and Fields or whatever it is, right? That you sell. So the first thing is if you're in an MLM, start focusing on highlighting and like, I don't know, to be honest, if it's against like, I don't know what kind of terms and conditions they sign, right? Like, what are they allowed to
Mhm.
do and not? I don't know. But I suggest, say you sell a beauty product through an MLM, start positioning yourself as a beauty expert, right? Like start creating content on your own blog that has nothing to do with that brand around your expertise. And then, of course, that's going to help you sell the products that you're already selling, but now you're positioning yourself to sell something else, right? Like to slowly get rid of the MLM thing because you're not building yourself as a, you know, I keep using Avon because I've already named and shamed. And so I'm just going to keep
Yeah.
using that. But now you're not an Avon rep. You're a beauty, whatever, consultant. Okay. And
Mhm.
now, even if you're still selling Avon in the meantime, you can go create something else or in your niche, right? Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
so you're able to essentially, like, diversify your revenue streams.
Yes.
So, from that, like, once you're if you're growing your blog and you're following to a certain point, you can start making money by having ads on your blog, and this is just a ton of ways people make,
Yeah.
money in the online digital space. It's like ads on their blog, other affiliate programs, like, so when you if there are products you do use and love, you can recommend those products, and if people use your link, you will get a little commission from that. That's like a very standard practice. And I mean, some companies even give you your own vanity discount code. I have several of those for brands I really like. And those are like more natural, authentic things, but you're not stuck recruiting people to the brand and it's not your only source of income.
Yep.
You have many more. And like even from that, you can go on to create your own products. Like you could do consultations on different things. You could do coaching. There's so much you could do when
You
you
could
have your
even
own brand.
yeah, exactly. And you could even use like for anything you have expertise in, don't forget that you can then go. I know a gal who loves the beauty space, and I don't know if she comes from an MLM background or whatever, but she loves like all things, hair, makeup. I think she even does marketing for like plastic surgery offices and stuff. But like she took that expertise that she has, and she's also good at social media. So now she does social media management for beauty companies, right? Or you could, if you're a good writer, you can blog for beauty, you can actually get paid to write for other companies on their blogs or whatever. Designer, like it doesn't matter what are your transferable skills, and then use this area that you're building your brand in as your niche And like you can literally create income in so many different ways, doing what
Yeah.
you love. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're cultivating this audience around your brand and the things that you love, they also love. Because I think one of the biggest problems that I have with MLMs personally is that they want you to first turn to your friends and family to become customers.
Hmm.
But I think, as any business owner knows, your friends are not your customers.
Yeah.
And if a company is trying to convince you to either get your friends or family to sign up or for you to push your products onto them or whatever it may be, that's a huge red flag, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Agreed.
a reason that doctors don't treat their family members. There's a reason
Yeah.
that surgeons don't operate on their family members.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. And that's such a good point too, because um Nicole, you were saying that they have people first reach out to their friends and family. And I remember reading this thread and it really pained me. It was in a big like group for female, like supporting other female entrepreneurs or whatever. And this woman posted that she's trying to sell her jewelry and that she and her husband were like, their marriage was like literally becoming on the rocks because he wasn't sharing her posts, right? He wasn't sharing her
Oh my
posts
goodness.
about her jewelry, and they were like having this fight because she didn't see him as supporting her business. And so many, this is what really irked me, was
Mhm.
like so many people, so many women on the thread were commenting to get rid of him if he didn't support her business. And I was like, hold up. Is this your handcrafted jewelry that you are pouring your heart and soul into, and your husband should be proud to share your art? Or is this paparazzi jewelry, right?
Mhm.
Because if it is the latter, if it is an MLM jewelry, your husband, his friends are not buying paparazzi jewelry anyway. It's not your
Mhm.
target audience. And also, why put that expectation? Maybe your husband doesn't really support that because he has a different view of MLMs, or because you've been spending a lot of money on inventory and now it's his responsibility to help you off. I mean, there's just so many things there that I thought this is
Mhm.
really problematic. This is not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And it was
totally
not
agree.
handcrafted jewelry, for the record. It was an MLM. So,
Of course it wasn't.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's not to say that starting your own business, is easy. Like, I definitely think it's a path that is very challenging, but I do think starting a side hustle is something most people have in them to
Oh,
do. Like,
absolutely.
most people have skills or the ability to create something worth selling, worth money, that's not just recruiting your friends and family
Yeah,
to join a company. Like, it just bothers me so much
it does.
because there's
Yeah.
so many other options. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I never really see men who are part of MLMs who are like
No.
reaching out
I've
to
been
Mm-mm.
trying,
people
yeah, I've been racking my brain, and all the MLM products I know about that are
are
actual
targeted.
physical products are like quote unquote female products, like used by women, targeted to women. I've only been
Yeah.
approached by female
Mm-hmm.
women
Mm-hmm.
by women. I've only been approached by women. Even um the body beach body and health
Beach
craze
body. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
MLMs, I've only been approached by women, and it's always been a really caustic approach where their attitude is, "Oh, well, you don't want a healthy body if you're not doing this." And
Mm-hmm.
that's just not okay.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But it's
Yeah.
just always women.
Yeah, it's a lot of like shame based buying and selling, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't like those as marketing tactics to begin with, but
No.
especially for businesses that like their primary goal is just to recruit new sellers, not
Yeah.
even customers. It's just, I think it's a huge waste of people's time. And I don't think it's a good financial or, time investment. And I think that if someone is reaching out to you to try to get you to join as a consultant, because this has happened to me a lot of times, and I can also, freely admit that I have bought from people's MLMs because I feel bad for them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I know it's really just like kind of, it's just perpetuating the problem really to do that. But I mean, I feel really bad for people, and I know that that's probably a sales tactic too because people are like, "I just have to make 5 more sales to reach
Yep.
my goal. Who wants to help me do it? No one, Susan. Sorry."
For sure.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
But I know you were saying before we recorded that you have bought some of the stuff, and it's not that you, because I thought this was a really good point you made. It's not that you think the products are necessarily terrible, right? So just to underscore that, it's not even about that. It's the fact that, well, for me, and we all seem to have our different sort of like grievances with MLMs, but
Mhm.
for me it's the fact that, like, regardless of the product, like, that product can be taken out from under you so quickly. So what they're doing is they're selling you the
Mhm.
idea of being a business owner, an entrepreneur, and that you have all this freedom and that you have all this potential to make money, and you don't have um, insight or transparency into what's really happening at, like, the business enterprise level. You don't know what their books look like. You don't know what their future plans are. You don't know if they're going to start distributing through big box stores or something like that, because
Mhm.
that can all change in a heartbeat, which affects
Yeah.
your income and
Yeah, I
your
mean, we've
future.
seen this even recently with Beauty Counter, which, I mean, I like Beauty Counter products. I own several of them, which I have purchased through a consultant, and I do like the products, but they were built on this, like, independent rep kind of, MLM essentially model, and now they're being sold in Sephora.
Hmm.
So, there's really no, like, point for people to go through an independent rep anymore when you can literally just buy at Sephora, get your Sephora points, use your Sephora discounts, all that stuff. And I mean, what does that do to all these people's income who are, happy to sell the products and, message their friends and purchase free samples to send out to people and all this stuff? Like, what does that do to that stream
Exactly.
of income for you?
Yeah,
And,
for
like, what
sure.
if that's your only additional stream of income? Like, if someone's a stay-at-home mom and they're making, I don't know, $500 a month through Beauty Counter, like, that might be a lot of money for them, but now Sephora's selling it, so why would someone keep going through you,
Yeah, exactly.
you
There's no
know?
incentive. And it's a convenience thing too. Oh, I can just get it at Sephora when I'm getting my other stuff.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's just so upsetting, and yeah, again, it's like, it's not that the products are necessarily bad for certain companies, it's just the model of the business and how they prey on vulnerable people, and that's essentially where their money comes from for the
Hmm.
business, because truthfully, these products are costing them pennies to make,
Hmm.
and so their profit is just huge, and that's how they can afford to have all these, like, uplines
Yeah.
and still have the people at the top making, like, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Millions.
it's basic math, yeah.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars. So,
Yeah.
So, one last thing to note would be if you're in an MLM or you've been approached by MLM products and reselling schemes, just think about what you actually like to do and what you're passionate about if you believe in a product, and figure out how you can serve yourself with it. So if you want to be a beauty guru, you can figure out how to do that on your own, and you have the transferable skills that you can use for yourself. So if you are in an MLM and you feel like, okay, well, I'm already deep into it, think about the time you spent and the things you've done. You've, for better for worse, you have gotten skills out of it, so you can take that and adjust and pivot, like we talked about earlier. So there's hope for better.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think that we just are
No, not just giving them, highlighting their problems and then not giving them a solution. Yeah,
right. So,
absolutely.
and Erin was talking about it with building your personal brand and things like that. I just want to recognize and highlight that there is a hope, and everyone's career path is going to be different. So you always have to take what your experiences are and build from them, because you never start over. You just keep building.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's such great advice and such great words of wisdom. And I think piling on top of it from what you said earlier, Nicole, which is also an episode I have coming up. I keep teasing it, and I like don't even have dates, so don't ask me about that.
mhm.
But about diversifying your income streams. And so when you are an MLM rep, if that is what you're doing now, whether you want to keep doing that or not, I don't think it's smart to just do that because you have all your eggs in one basket. So even if you're like, no, I love what I'm doing, I love my team, I love the product, great, keep doing it. And also start going and doing something that you are building, that you own the intellectual property to, that only you can provide, that you can create new things to add to that, and start getting your revenue from multiple sources and not just that company. That's what my
Mhm.
final words would be. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think it's important to remember that, I mean, essentially all businesses, make money through sales, whether it's a product or service, and that's I mean, that's how business works because
Yeah.
people have to be paying for something. But when you're not in control of your business and your income streams, like even huge, like multi-million dollar businesses have multiple ways they make revenue. It's like,
Yeah.
I think that's just really important to remember.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, but so like building your own business and having your own revenue streams so that if one of them, dies or like falls down a little. Like, no one is going to fully take each of those revenue streams away from you. Like, they will still be there. You have full understanding of what's going on in your company, where your money's coming from, how you're building your relationships, and you're not burning relationships. You're building upon them. Because
Mhm.
once someone has, bought from you before, they're likely to buy from you again, which I think is something these MLMs also preach to people. But essentially, when you're hounding people,
Right.
they're just gonna cut you off, basically unfriend you, unfollow, block. But when you are authentically selling like your services and products very well and doing a very good job at it, people come back to you. And I think we all know that through our businesses, and I just really want to impart that to people who are in MLMs and are looking to diversify or think of another way to make money. I want people to know that there's more than just that.
Well, this has been another episode of the Gen 20 podcast. We hope you enjoy it. And if you did, or even if you didn't, please give us a rating or leave us a review. Erin, thanks so much again for coming on. Where can everyone find you if they want to learn more from you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. With us three, we could probably like talk about this for another
Mhm.
4 hours, but I think we would lose listeners. So thank you for this great discussion. Something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time, actually. So brilliant idea. Everybody can find me at candidlyerin.com and pretty much everywhere on social media at candidlyerin. So pretty easy.
Great. Well, we'll see you next time.